Hello, my name is Faina, and I have dedicated the last 7 years to honing my craft and fine tuning my strategy.
Hi, I'm Louise Nonwheeler and I'm a trading psychology expert. I've worked with traders for almost a decade across the globe. I am a multi-award-winning clinical hypnotherapist and life coach. I am also the founder and creator of a proven online psychology program.
At Trading in the Zen, we believe that there is much more to trading than numbers and probabilities. Like an athlete, a trader should operate in their peak state. Each week, you will have mind-blowing interviews as well as actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become a better trader. Thanks for spending time with us today. Now, let's dive right in.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Trading in the Zen. And so we're excited today to announce that we have a great guest. His name is Brian McAboy. He lives in Colorado and he has been working with traders for almost 2 decades now. He's a trading coach, a business consultant, and he has some great information to share. So we hope that you enjoy this episode. Welcome on the show, Brian. It's really nice to have you today.
Well, thanks for having me. A pleasure to be here with you.
Hi, Brian.
Hello, hello.
Hello. So let's talk about all things trading. Is there a subject matter that just gets your blood boiling when people talk about trading?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there is. And I don't hear it talked about enough as far as I'm concerned. And that really is the dreadful start that traders get. There's no like set curriculum or requirements for somebody to get started trading. It's really all you need is, money to fund an account and you can start trading, whether you're prepared or not. And most traders are not. Common story that I've seen over the years, and that's what I did too, is, you hear about trading from a friend or a colleague or maybe on the news or whatever. And so you learn enough about it to say, oh, okay, cool, I can do that. And then you go open an account somewhere and the broker says, here, you can have a SIM account and, get familiar with the platform in there and you can sit in on our trading room for, a week or two until you're comfortable. But they're incentivized to get you trading at like ASAP because otherwise they're not making money. And so most traders, they learn what I've come to term as, enough to be dangerous. And they start trading with real money. And it's absolutely horrible for everybody that goes through that because you just, immediately you start establishing all sorts of horrible associations and patterns and, mental habits. And it's just, it's just a whole normal way of trading that is way off the mark because they're woefully unprepared. And this is not a job that's that easy to just jump into it. And I've even come to call it like the kiss of death because once that happens to a trader, all the stuff that mentally happens to them just totally sets them up for failure. And, being unprepared for this job, it's like, it's bad enough that you're getting into it without proper training, but now you're being thrown from the boat to figure it out. And you just kind of put yourself mentally and psychologically in a horrible position to ever, get it turned around, and at least in a reasonable time frame. So
I just feel like there is, and I've discussed it before, such a gross lack of respect for what we do. And not people feel like with the now wide access to things like Robinhood and other trading platforms, what's even worse than a broker telling you to trade is when people take their life savings or whatever they have left and putting it into an account without having proper training. And they, some person who traded once has now a course and they've signed up for this course and they have no idea what they're doing. They're trying to follow someone else's strategy, which they do not understand. They don't have any basic understanding of even what margins are or how they work. And then the devastation that causes usually either results in people never trading again or them continuously funneling money into the trading account and continuing the loss of capital. And I think that is a very, very dangerous ground.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely. And to touch on that as well, I don't know what it's like in the US, but over here in the UK, when it comes to things like schooling and college, we were never taught things like money management, how to invest, how to kind of what happens when we get out into the real world. we were never taught that in school. And I think that's a big problem as well when it comes for traders, unless you're kind of self-educated in learning how to manage money and invest and things like that. I think it can be really challenging.
Oh, true. Well, even if you do have a money background, I've had a lot of people come to me for help that were very successful people outside of trading. I mean, making $400,000 or $500,000 a year, doing very well for themselves in trading, losing money left and right. And it's not that they lacked the personal assets or the financial abilities. They just didn't know what the heck they were doing with trading. And I mean, and it's even worse if you don't have that other success behind you or the financial acumen like you're talking about. I mean, you kind of nailed it on the head when you said people don't, and it's not that everybody's doing it, because they're bad people or lazy or whatever, but as far as paying this, occupation a proper respect, it's just because it looks so stinking easy at first. From the outside, it looks easy. So it's so easy to underestimate. And with the low barriers to entry, I mean, all you need is money, and you can start trading even if you don't know anything, even if you don't know what the heck the stock market is. You can open an account and start trading. There's like zero barrier if you've got, if you've got money to open an account. Sure, come on in. It's terrible because people need to be discouraged. I mean, a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I'll discourage the heck out of them, even if they've. Even if they're already like heavily invested, already got 5 years and, lost $50,000 or whatever, I'll be like, dude, you need to go do something else. This ain't for you,
Right. And I'm so sorry, to your point, it's not for everyone. Just like I, maybe will never be a professional basketball player and I'm definitely not going to be a brain surgeon. The fact that people think that anyone can be a trader is really disrespectful to what we do. And it's dangerous because, if you're not a decisive person, if you're not a person that understands basic math or has, at this point, computer skills, if you don't understand how probabilities work, if you are not willing to invest the time and the fortitude to excel in this profession, it's not for you. If you have risk aversion, it's not for you. If you can't recover from, taking a hit, it's not for you. And to say to everyone that, hey, put some money in and now you're a trader is so dangerous because this is a business. And I think people don't treat it as a business. And I know you have thoughts on like the whole business side of trading. Can you walk us through a little bit, a proper setup? What is a proper groundwork for a trader to become, have a chance of becoming successful?
Well, actually, you said a mouthful right there. The wisdom to treat your trading as a business, again, people, when they see that, if they've never started a business, if they don't have any experience at all in being a business owner, they've just been an employee their entire lives, they have no idea what that really means. And so one of my favorite questions to ask people when they come to me for help is, have you ever started and run your own business before? Because if they have, then that tells me they've gone through a lot of the learning curves that they're going to need to be successful as a trader. And if they haven't, then they've got two learning curves they got to go through. They got to learn how to trade, and they got to learn how to run their, plan and start up and run their own business, because this is a business. This isn't investing. This isn't buy and hold investing. This is an active participation business, an activity that you're engaging in on a regular basis for profit. Hence a business. And people just, like I said, they don't even understand that if they've just been an employee their entire lives. And I'm not putting anybody down. I was kind of in the same boat before I started my first business, but especially with trading. And you asked, okay, so what's like the proper foundation? Well, just like if you were starting any other business, one of the first things you want to do is sit down and say, what are my objectives? What are my resources? And put together like the very like super, super basic, what am I even trying to accomplish here? What are my financial goals with my investment, whether it's trading or any other business, venture that I might pursue. So many traders that I talk to, it's like, how much money should you be making? I don't know. I just want to make money. How much do you want to be making? I want to make 10 grand a month. And it's just a stab in the air. And none of it's based in any like actual sitting down and saying, this is my account size and this is going to be my strategy and my approach. And so I can expect this kind of ROI. Even just that simple of an exercise right there most traders never do. And it would go so far for them mentally, just in letting them get focused on what they're doing. Is it even realistic? And if I'm cruising along and this is my plan, now I have a reference. Am I doing well? Am I not? Do I need to make adjustments? Is it just plain not working? Do I need to stop and pivot? But most traders, like I said, they've never even set like some just super basic operational parameters, let alone actually a plan. And it's extremely well, actually, and see, it's not just traders as far as that goes, because I've also been consulting with businesses off and on for 30 years. And it's hilarious because I'll have business owners say, hey, Brian, I need your help. We know we can be making more money. We know we could be working less hours. And so, can you help us just get organized? And one of the first things that I do with a lot of them, even businesses that have been in and been open for like 5, 10, 15 years, they've never put together a business plan. And so one of the first things we'll do, just because that helps them think through the process and get mentally organized in what they're doing instead of just wrestling with all the day-to-day details like they're doing, just putting out fires all the time.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's not just traders, jump into it without a plan. A lot of businesses start up where it's just they just kind of start doing something on the side and it grows into a business. But they never actually sat down and said, let's actually make like a real plan, something beyond just the budget or,
And that's a worry, I think, because how can, and I do speak to a lot of traders as well. And I ask them, what's your end goal? What's your 12-year, 5-year plan, 6-month goals? And a lot of the time I do get the answer, I'm not sure, I haven't worked on that. That should be the first thing and the most fundamental. It's a fundamental thing, because if you don't have an end goal, an end vision, where do you know you're going in what direction? It's impossible. So I think, having all of that is so important. But asking you a question, Brian, now you've been working with traders for over 16 years. You run a successful company called Inside Out Trading. Now you're a trading coach and a business consultant. Can you share and give us more information about exactly what your company is, what you do, and so forth?
Well, like the high level overview with the Inside Out Trading, the main thing that I focus on is not, teaching a specific method or for specific markets. The main thing that I do is I teach people how to be a trader. And that is, and if you look at it, whenever you have a business and it's just you have a whole bunch of different roles. You're the investor in the business, you're the owner of the business, you're the manager, you're the one doing the thing of the business. I mean, you wear all the hats. And so it's important to understand, okay, so you have different roles that you have to fulfill. You're not just a trader sitting there trying to make money every day. You have other roles if you're going to actually have real business here. And so I focus primarily on 2 roles. One is, being the investor and owner of the business. So it's like, okay, just from an investor standpoint, understanding that role and how to approach trading from that perspective. And then, okay, now I'm the owner of the business. Now, I got to put together, a business plan, a startup plan, capitalization, goals, all that kind of stuff. And like the actual plan is, okay, so these are my 1-year, 5-year, 10-year goals. How am I going to get there? Put together a financial plan, at least for the first 12 months, at the very least, preferably 5 years out. I work with them, and what I focus on again is, the owner, kind of the higher level roles of the investor and owner and manager of the business. And then also on the real specific role of, being the trader and handling the day-to-day stuff. Because I found those are the 2 primary roles. If you can take care of those 2, that's like probably 80 to 90% of what you need to attend to as a trader.
Okay.
Yeah, I also feel like people have arbitrary numbers, right? Like fuzzy ideas produce fuzzy results. When people say, I want to make 10 grand a month. And when I say, what is that per day, per week? And people haven't even broken down the simple math of what that looks like. And do you have what it takes to get there? Because if your account is $500, is not likely that's going to happen, nor should you be trading. Because I think it's not mentioned enough, the initial investment into this business, what that looks like to set yourself up for success. Because there's a lot of things of like, put $1,000 and by the next week, you'll have 10K. That's not likely. It's probably not going to happen because, no matter what you trade, the margins are, it's just not going to happen. Mathematically, it does not work.
Oh, yeah.
And so I feel like people, when they go into other businesses, they understand the initial investment that will be required for it to be successful. When they go into trading, they feel like they're just going to throw some money at it and they're going to wake up a millionaire. And it is really kind of mind boggling that people don't work out what that looks like.
Well, and see a lot of that. I mean, like, what brought up the educational system.
Mm-hmm.
One of the huge failings of it is even just helping people understand that. And Robert Kiyosaki, and I think it was Cash Flow Quadrant, he talks about the four different mindsets that people have. And so you have like the employee mindset, and that comes with a whole set of perspectives and expectations and views of how things are. And then you've got the self-employed person, who they've got their own job, and I mean, they're working for themselves, but it's still a job. Then you've got a true business owner where they're running the business and they're not necessarily in the business and doing the thing of the business. And then you got investors. But so many people, they're not even aware that there are those four things. They just think people are people, and I'm an employee, you're a business owner. No, we're the same. It's like, no, we're not, because we have a whole different look at the world and how things work and a whole different understanding. And so a lot of people, like I said, they're employees, and they may even be, professionals making good money and everything, but they have no clue what's going on with business and what that actually even, all the things that are involved with it and the perspectives of it. Because startup capital, of course, is one thing. ROI. Most employees of a company never even hear that term, let alone are involved in how to produce it and what's reasonable and what's not for this industry, stuff like that.
Right. And also opportunity cost, right? What is it costing you to do this on a daily basis? And if you break it down per hour, is this the best line of work for you? I don't think like people even think about that, because if you're sitting in front of the computer for 15 hours and you're making $100, is this making sense? Just so you can call yourself a trader. People don't think about it. I'm like, so what do you make per hour? I mean, you're making below minimum wage. It makes no sense.
Oh, yeah. No, I laugh because that's one of my favorite things to raise people's awareness. It's like, dude, would you be better off mowing lawns or what?
Right. Like, do anything else. Literally anything else would be better. Like, go deliver papers. I don't know, but this is not working mathematically. You're a grown adult being, and you're sitting there, just so you can tell your friends that you're a trader, but you're not really, because if you're not making money at it, then are you a trader or are you a dabbler? Because if you're a trader, you can sustain your lifestyle, I presume, right? Because it's a profession. And if you're a dabbler, I mean, do anything else. And then, in your free time, throw a couple of bucks, but just equally as successful, go to a casino.
Yeah. Yeah. So Brian, what percentage, like 100%, what percentage would you give? So a trader, 100%, what should be trading and what should be business? Should they focus on 50-50? I mean, I know obviously everybody's different and they work differently, but what percentage do you feel is right, the right balance?
Well, as far as time, it's going to be like 80-20 or 90-10 trading to business, just as far as the time that's required to do that fulfill that role. It's not like you need to spend 20 hours a week, being the business owner and focusing on the business. It does require some time, reviewing your metrics, looking at the numbers of the business, what do you call it? Like industrial research, just getting, understanding what's going on with the markets, and particularly the ones that you like to focus on, that kind of stuff. So the higher level activities really should only take like 10 to 20% of your time each week. They need to be done, and they're super critical. But most of your time, of course, is going to be spent just doing the trading. And it's funny because that's one of those few things where the 80-20 principle definitely applies. If you don't do that 20%, your 80% is going to be rough and full of mistakes and wasted time. And if you do attend to that 20%, your 80% is going to be pretty fruitful and a whole lot smoother.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how often would you say a trader should run analytics? Because people don't look at success rate of what they're doing. How often should a person check in? Is it weekly, biweekly, monthly, to see if their system they have in place is actually working?
Well, at the very least, monthly. A lot of that depends on the frequency that you're placing trades. I mean, somebody who's like a longer term investor where they're only placing maybe one or two trades a month, they don't need to be worrying about it but once a month or even once a quarter. But somebody who's an active day trader placing 5 to 10 trades a day, they should be running them at least once a week, at least. I'd say you probably want to do it. It's better to say more on a frequency of number of trades placed. I'd say no less than every 25 to 50 trades. That's good to run your metrics. Just and from a statistical standpoint,
right?
To have a decent confidence interval, low margin of error, 30 to 50 is a good number for a sampling to give you a decent idea of the metrics. Yeah, this is how things are going.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Because for example, I run my analytics and I'm looking to see, but I go deeper than that. What time of day I'm most successful, what days of the weeks I'm most successful. I want to know, because if I don't know the numbers, how can I improve? And I feel sometimes people are just like horses with blinders. They're running, but all around it's a shaky ground. It's like a house of cards. And then when it crumbles, they don't understand why. But if you ran your analytics, you would have seen that, you place in 10 trades a day. That is too much, because it's sort of you're over trading, or look, you're trading in time of day that is just not fruitful for you. What assets are you trading? Because not every asset is like the other asset. Everything is like a living thing. It has its own characteristics, its own times, its own. So I feel like if people spend a little bit of time actually looking objectively at what they're doing, sometimes demise might not have happened, or their performance would improve. Just in general, it doesn't have to be so gloom and doom, but your performance, if you're not improving, that there's somewhere statistically you are not looking at an area that needs your attention.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I used to be a quality assurance manager. So, yeah, as far as monitoring the numbers and all that kind of stuff, you're preaching to the choir
here. Has your experience, sorry, Brian, has your experience and expertise being a quality engineer helped your trading and helped you working with clients over the years?
Oh, well, first of all, that's what saved me, because, I started off just like everybody else. I underestimated what the whole occupation was about, and I jumped into it and was trading stupidly long enough to lose over $40,000. And then I stepped back and it's like, okay, I got to approach this entirely differently. And what I was able to do, and it's been an absolute godsend for me and the people that I've been able to help, is the quality assurance aspect of things and just what it does for businesses around the world. I mean, consistency is a huge thing, and consistent, reliable output is a huge thing for traders. But see, that's been a problem for businesses forever. And, regardless whether it's a one-person operation or you got a lot of people working there, getting consistently good performance day in and day out, month in and month out, has been a challenge forever. And that's what quality assurance really the whole field was developed to address, is how do we take what we're doing, get a solid handle on it so that it becomes very repeatable and very predictable, and we know what the output's going to be. That's what quality really, that's the foundation of quality assurance. And hence the term. I mean, you've heard of quality control. Quality control used to be, let's just run and make stuff, and we'll have some inspectors down the line saying what's okay and what's not, kicking off the bad stuff. Quality assurance said, no, we're going to take a look at the process itself, how we're actually producing, whatever it is we make, and make sure that that's dialed in and it runs well so that we know what the output is. And that's why they changed the terminology from quality control to quality assurance, because now it's like, yeah, we know what the output is, so we can just monitor the process, and we know that we're sending good product down the line. And that is so applicable to trading. It's unreal, because what are we doing? It's a process. And it's something that we're doing over and over and over again. I mean, potentially like day traders, you're placing hundreds or thousands of trades a year. Yeah. You want to have the best process you can and have it be very repeatable if it's a good process.
So it sounds like you use the same principles that you have learned as a quality engineer into your business.
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, with a lot of people that have come to me, and this is where over time, it's where I just kind of learned to hold a perspective about the training that people get when they get into trading. Nobody teaches this kind of stuff in the trading world. That's like how to be consistent, besides the psychological side of it. And the psychological side is huge. Don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying that, but that's not all there is. If you've got a system that has weaknesses, or it's a crappy system, or it's overcomplicated, that by itself can create huge issues. I mean, there's like a long list of what I call hard side issues, in addition to the soft side stuff. The purely psychology side of it is just plain, are you properly organized before you ever start? And a lot of people, the system that they're working with has functional flaws, things that are just plain, anybody's going to have a hard time trading that system. And like we were talking about goals and any kind of reasonable expectations, even something as simple as not knowing how much you should make with your setup. Not having a clue. A lot of people I ask, they've been trading for a long time. I'll ask them, how much money should you be making? You got a $20,000 account. This is the system that you're using. You're placing so many trades, a week. How much money should you be making? They don't know. And that by itself is a huge mental problem, because if you don't have any idea how much you should be making at the end of the week, and you're just trying to make money, and especially, you just had a rough day yesterday, so now, you don't know how the day should have gone, long term. You don't have a perspective on that. Now you're dealing with that. Plus, I still don't know how much I should be making today, so I'm just going to try to make money. And if that's your sole thought, and you have no parameters on that mentally, no structure, you're always going to be tempted to chase trades. Or somebody, you hear somebody else, they got this new cool system, they just cracked the code. It's going to tempt you, and your brain's going to go, ooh, sounds like somebody's making money over there. Well, we got to go look at that, and it's going to mess with you. But if you've got yourself organized, you got your parameters to work with, and you have the mental structure, that by itself is huge. Just being able to stay settled down and avoid the other temptations on top of all the other stuff that comes into play.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would have to agree with you. When you have a faulty system, it's sort of the psychology will go hand in hand, because when your confidence is rocked, then your psyche will immediately start to do the fight or flight. It's going to start to do crazy things, because our brain is pain avoidant. And so you will start doing all the things that you never even thought you would be doing, because you're in a panic mode in your body. Because I think that trading triggers in you the same kind of fight or flight reflex as when you're in a danger, because you feel like there's danger. And I feel like people don't even understand mathematically how to come out of a drawdown. Increasing your position size the next day and going all in is not going to do it. Like what does that look like? Well, you in a drawdown, come in guns blazing the next day. If you in a drawdown, there's a faulty premise somewhere. You would have to do something like decreasing your position size and looking at what's not working, not coming in. I hear people all of a sudden, I'm like, where are you going with all them contracts? Where are you going? You couldn't do it with one. You've just increased your risk. What is an appropriate risk, right? Per account size. Is it 1%? Is it 2%? Because you're at 15. And if that does not work, what you're doing, it's going to take you months to recover that, just mathematically speaking, if you don't blow your account first. And so it's really strange what people do. I mean, and I've been there, but I think it's back to your point. There's lack of education. They don't understand what they're doing. And so the result is logical, because if you don't know where you're going or why you're here or what it is that you're looking at, how can you be successful at it?
And a lack of discipline as well.
Yes.
A lack of discipline.
Are there any good habits that a trader should have that you recommend that they improve on when they come to you? Do you look at their daily routines? Do you look at their structure? What are like the daily habits of a good trader?
Well, probably one of the biggest single habits that I could say will be like have the greatest impact. And I remember I hadn't really had it like put in my face so much as when I was helping a buddy of mine down in Australia. He wanted some help putting together this report on Nicholas Darvis. Remember him? he wrote, and this was way back, like in 59 or 60. He wrote the book, How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market, a real famous book.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And, he's this guy, he was like a ballroom dancer and he traveled the world. But this was way back before the days of the internet. I mean, it's like phone conversations across this, overseas were a pain. Usually people communicated by cable. And that's how he was trading with his method, was he would cable back and forth to his broker here in the States. Well, what he would do in between while he was waiting, since they didn't have, the internet where he could watch the markets and everything all the time, he would take time to practice his method. And he would just pull up charts and just practice it and practice it and practice it. And to me, when I'm reading that, it's like, that is so sensible. It's unreal. This is a performance sport, brand, and it's a skill game. And so just like if, somebody was a golfer, you wouldn't only pick up your clubs when it's time to go, enter the tournament. You'd be out there, be on the driving range, practicing your driving and, your tee offs. You'd be on the par threes, practicing your short game, getting on the green. You'd be spending tons of time on the putting green and, just chipping on and practicing your putting. But so few traders practice their trading. And so the only time they're trading is when it's live and there's money on the line. And all that does is compound it if they're having any kind of problems. But if they would take the time to go over to the sim account and just practice their method, strictly for the sake of practice, to build good execution muscle memory.
I tell people I trade maybe 30 minutes a day, to be perfectly honest. The rest of the time, I do playback mode. I will go back to a month that I don't quite remember and just look for my setups. And because you, like, for example, and I'm not a spokesperson for Ninja, but a Ninja Trader has a playback mode. And I make calls and see how they play out over and over and over again. So when my pattern shows up, there is not a question in my mind that this is my pattern. I understand. Will it work out this time? And that's a probabilities game. I get that, but I have to get to you have to have pattern recognition. And if you've never seen what that looks like, how can you be certain? And then how can you have confidence in yourself? So it's kind of building in itself, right? If people don't spend any time playing back and seeing how those setups have played out in the past, what are you basing your strategy on?
Yeah. Well, and, we were talking about like the start that people get and the training that they get when they first start out. And the brokers, as far as I'm concerned, they do everybody a tremendous disservice by giving them a sim account without telling them, go practice whatever method you're going to use. They don't tell them that. They just say, here's your sim account. You got 50 grand to go play with. You get familiar with the platform and placing trades. And that's it. And so most people, they'll jump into the sim account and they're just kind of playing and having fun. And, a lot of times they'll kill it just because, they get on a lucky streak or whatever. But they're not developing their skills with their method. And that really, as far as I'm concerned, that should be the primary, if not sole function of a sim account, is that's where you're going to go practice and get good at what you're doing.
Talk us, Brian, if you can. So say, for instance, I contact you. I'm a trader. I am at the beginning of my journey, but I know that I need help. How do you help me? How will you help me along the way? How long will you work with me for? Or does it just depend on each individual?
Well, no. Like I told you, the first question that I'll ask somebody is, have you ever started your own business before? And of course, I'll ask them how long they've been trading. If somebody's brand new to trading, actually, I get excited about that because it's like, cool, you haven't established a whole bunch of bad stuff that we have to undo.
Yeah.
You can start fresh and do it right the first time. Cool. But that doesn't happen that often. That's like maybe 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20 times. Most people that come to me have already been trading for a while. Typically 6 months or more. I actually ran a survey a couple of years ago, and it was hilarious because the average tenure of the people that I surveyed was 4.6 years.
Wow.
They'd already been trading for that long, and like 86% of them were not happy with their trading.
Gosh.
You got to be through the ringer to come for help because your optimism will decrease with your account size.
Yeah. But to your question, what I would do is we'd start, And I look at this as, I think it's kind of just a natural progression of how I think it's wise for anybody to approach it is, okay, well, let's step back because you've got these different roles. Before you're even a trader, you're an investor in your business. You're somebody sitting there saying, I've got some money, I want to do something with it. And so we attend to that thought process in that role. And then that kind of naturally leads into, okay, well, as far as trading as my vehicle that I want to pursue, okay, now how do I approach that as far as like setting goals and picking my strategy and how I want to trade, my time involvement and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a what I can, like I said, I think it's a natural or reasonable chronology to things. You know, it's like, okay, you got to start off at a higher level and then work down into the details. Because even once you've, chosen your general strategy and what you want to trade, then do you have the funding? Are your ROI goals reasonable for how much you're going to be trading, how often you're going to be trading, and your strategy? And then once it's time to start picking a specific method to trade with, okay, now how do we step into this properly to execute and deploy that method successfully and confidently and in a business-like manner? And I'm teaching people all along the way. It's like, okay, this is how you pick your strategy that you want to use and your method. This is how you evaluate it if you're looking at one that's already been created, which most of the time people are. They're not just making their own from scratch. So it's like, okay, once you've got it written out, okay, how do you evaluate it from a functional standpoint? One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make on a daily basis and on a big scale basis is they focus on profit first and not consistency first. And and again, this goes back to my quality stuff. It's a whole lot easier to take a process that is producing consistently, even if it's not producing what you want, but if it's producing consistently, it's a whole lot easier to fix that than a process that's all over the place.
Yeah.
And same thing with trading. If you can get the consistency dialed in, then making adjustments for profitability is easy. And so that's where I approach it from is, okay, let's get your method consistent and producing consistently, and then we can make adjustments to improve the profitability of it.
Consistency is key, isn't it? It really is. It's one of the key words for traders, to find that consistency.
But also having a strategy you understand, because following someone else's strategy is not fruitful. If you don't know why they're doing what people come to me and they go, teach me how to trade. And I said, well, it's not like riding a bicycle. It's not going to be that simple.
What? You pass on that? You don't say just send me a check?
No, I don't pose in front of someone else's Ferrari and take a picture and say, well, if you want to be rich like me. I'm sitting in a fur coat in front of my computer so that people can understand the wealth. That is me. But people always coming back, maybe you can just teach me how to trade. And I'm like, well, where do I start with this, right? Or people say, maybe you can show me a strategy, but do you understand why I have that strategy? Do you understand the countless hours and years that went into building that strategy? Do you understand the first thing about probabilities, Fibonacci retracements? This is not like, it's always such a funny thing. It's like, we're going to sit down and I'm going to be like, well, you click here, you click here, you see this green little thing, you click there and there you go. You're a millionaire. You can also have a Ferrari. So there is a time that needs to be spent understanding a strategy, building one, because maybe my strategy is so mathematical that somebody who is a more linear thinker it's not going to work for you, right? Because I've had some things explained to me and I look at it and I just simply don't understand, or it doesn't gel with my personality because my strategy it's aggressive, it's risk assuming. If you're not that person, how can you be successful? So I feel that people need to figure out who they are first before and what it is. Or assets, right? I trade crude oil. That's not for everyone. Perhaps a currency would be more your speed. You have to understand what things are before you get in there and start clicking. And I think the beginning, the starting point is faulty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and that's why I take the approach that I do. It's like, let's start off with just the basic stuff. Why are you here? What are you trying to accomplish? And from like that super general point, then we'll start working into the details. But see, that's part of why trading is so challenging for most people, because, at the surface level, yeah, okay, I see somebody making money, broker called me up, said they're following these charts and, they've been, killing it for the last 90 days, that kind of stuff. But what most people don't realize, it's like, there is a progression to this, and there's like a million different possible systems you can trade with if you look at the different strategies and the different methods, and then you get into the details with the different, indicators or patterns and settings. And there's like literally a million different combinations. I mean, a long time ago, I sat down and started listing out just the general strategies, moving average crossovers, pivot points, following the trend. And I just started listing them all out. I stopped counting after 40, because it's like so many general methods that have been around for decades. I mean, a lot of these guys that we read about, they were doing this stuff 70 years ago. And so there are tons of methods. And then once you settle on a general method, now there's like 100 different ways to trade that method when you get into the details of how you're going to trade it. Am I going to trade 5-minute charts, hourly charts, daily charts, and they're like I said, when you get into all the details, there are tons of possibilities. And so a lot of people, they jump in ahead of they kind of skip parts of the progression, and they get ahead of the learning gradient, as I've heard it termed. And then they wonder why they're struggling. Well, it's like you jump way into the details way further than you were ready for. You need to start with the basics and make sure you understand each layer as you get more into the details. And like you're talking about, what works for you, might not work for somebody else. Well, is that because it's at the detail level, or no, it's probably at a higher level than that. And so being able to work your way into it. I mean, I one of the advantages that I had, like in mathematics, I had such an excellent teacher when I was at the junior college taking Calc 2. And this guy was so smart as a teacher, because he realized that as we're going through calculus, you might have, like differential equations or integrals or whatever the specific, concept was we were dealing with at the time. And within each concept, there would be, like levels A, B, C, D, E, and F. And if somebody was, stuck out here at D, he wouldn't just work with them right there. He would go all the way back to the core concept and make sure they understood that, and then go to step A, and do they understand that? And then step B, and he would work his way back out to wherever they were stuck. And he was 100% successful doing this. Everybody got out of that class understanding what they were doing, because he never wrestled with them where they were stuck. He knew that it was a different level where they were stuck. And so he would go back to the core concept and work his way back out. And it worked every single time.
Wow.
I had someone say, I trade moving averages. And I said, what is a moving average?
And they don't even know.
No, I said, it's not a squiggly line on your chart. What is the period of the moving? What makes it that period of the moving average? And so it blows my mind. Sorry to interrupt you. I just thought of that. People, I do moving average crossovers. Okay. Yeah. What is the moving average?
Oh yeah. That kills me. How many people, and I mean, I was guilty of it too. I was using indicators that I didn't really understand what the heck they did or what they were telling me. I mean, the thing is, this is huge for everybody though, because if you don't understand what you're using to make your decisions, how can you call it a valid tool?
Yeah.
Because if something happens that's not an everyday normal thing, you're looking at it and you don't know what it's telling you, because you don't understand it. And so now it's not helpful at all, and more than likely you're going to get hurt than it's going to be helpful. And I'm not saying this to hurt anybody's feelings. It's just, this is a field where it's a significant body of knowledge. There are a lot of things to learn. Even just the vocabulary is a huge thing, let alone all the different concepts and the methods, where they came from and understanding them, and the indicators and how they were developed and what they actually tell you and what they don't. This is a significant body of knowledge, and it's not something you're going to learn in 30 days.
And going slightly off track now, we've talked about kind of the business side of trading. We've talked about knowledge. We've talked about, the side of kind of principles and stuff. And we have touched on the psychology. Now, we know, that it's important, the psychology of trading, but how would you define personally the psychology of trading, Brian?
Was this a like 10 words or less kind of question?
It could be as long as you want.
I would say that for the most part, the psychology of trading comes down to two things. You got your cognitive psychology, which deals with the knowledge side of it, and the more practical psychological side of it. But just mentally, do you have things in place that you need to function? And then the second part of it is going to be behavioral. As you go through, and what kind of training did you have? How have your experiences affected you? And have your behaviors been trained as you've gone along? And that's part of what I was saying. Like, when people start off trading with real money way before they're ready, that's why I call it a kiss of death, because from a behavioral psychology standpoint, I mean, instantly you're practicing and being trained to, trade emotionally and in a